Video game movies are odd beasts. Despite the difficulty of adapting any form of media to the big screen, music, novels, and other works can boast a whole slew of greats across many genres of film. Video game movies have no such examples. While movies about video games can be great, straight-up adaptations like Prince of Persia, Super Mario Bros., and Street Fighters are not so much. One of the more commonly cited reasons is that Hollywood doesn't have people with any interest or respect for the source material helming these projects, ignoring just how bad the Wing Commander movie was, in spite of the film's director doubling as series creator Chris Roberts. Enter Ratchet and Clank, the latest attempt to bring the string of viable video game movie adaptations, with aid provided by the series developers over at Insomniac Games. Loosely based on the first entry, our story finds one half of the titular characters, whose dream of becoming a galactic ranger and fighting alongside Captain Quark is met when they announce trials to recruit a 5th ranger on his planet. After applying and failing, Ratchet is feeling pretty down until witnessing a ship crashing and saving its pilot, a robot named Clank who has important information about the villainous threats smashing various parts of different planets together, all while eliminating the Galactic Rangers, the latter of which is foiled by the titular duo. This successful quelling leads to Ratchet and Clank being made an honorary Rangers who, after an unfunny training montage that shows off how many weapons the movie can reference from the games, are sent on a mission to capture the chairman. Only for Drake to corrupt Captain Quark as a part of his plans to break apart the team from within that doesn't really go anywhere, all the while Dr. Nefarious schemes to blow up a planet whose composition is such that its destruction would cause a chain reaction that will blow up any planets within its vicinity. The whole thing plays out like your typically cliche underdog film, except it doesn't really provide any real reason for you to root for Ratchet to succeed after his many failures, mostly because the real focus of the film is on Jim Ward's Captain Quark, to the point where it feels like the movie should have been renamed Captain Quark and the Galactic Rangers. Not that the most intolerable character being the central focus of the film was ever a good idea. Whatever charm Quark's bumbling incompetence had in the games loses its luster when it's smeared across the screen for all to behold over increasingly repetitive gags that drowns out what should have been time devoted to the titular duo. To say the two lack chemistry would imply there was ever an attempt to create any. Ratchet and Clank barely share any screen time together, and what little time they do is done by exchanging a slew of unbearable jokes at one another, along with one moment which is framed in such a way that it should be a heartfelt reunion of two friends with one trying to encourage the other at the lowest moment, but instead becomes needless padding that rehashes the same point the previous scene made to fill out the time until the third act. The rest of the characters are so forgettable that if you're not familiar with the series they're based on, you'd have to look up their names just to remind yourself of who they are. The action is a subpar sandwich with zero bite to it, and no sauce to spice things up for what qualifies as intense in this tasteless drivel. The animation would have been passable for direct-to-DVD affair, if not for lacking any of the necessary details to make any of the gags land, nor show any semblance of consistency. The jokes, not a single one comes across as even chuckle-worthy. It's clear the writers were throwing whatever they think the audience for this would find funny against the wall and seeing what sticks, ranging from a hero-deprived mockery of online gaming trash talk, to an unfunny reference to Spock's memorial from Wrath of Khan, to referencing the Power Rangers and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, to reminding you that this isn't the only video game series that Sony threatens to bring to the big screen, because they all lack any sort of timing or follow any form of internal logic, as if referencing Twitter now counts as a lark. The film has enough classes to throw in a vomit joke near the end, a fitting metaphor for the juvenile, overly cynical and crummy writing that's on display. One might expect the actors reprising their roles from the video games to at least be a fan pleaser, but everyone feels like they're on autopilot, not that they're given much to work with. The Ratchet and Clank movie is pretty bad, albeit not offensively so. The most galling thing this film does is drop a tease for the sequel at the very end, as if anyone outside of Sony's shareholders and the most dedicated fans will have any sort of investment in the cinematic bile. As an action comedy, Ratchet and Clank is a failure on both fronts, which means it's still in the higher echelon of video game movies. If you think that sounds overly cynical, you should hear half of the interchangeable, quip-spewing excuse for different characters that the film provides. Before I end this, let's address something that will no doubt pop up in the comments. No! This being a film aimed primarily at kids does not excuse it from sucking. Much like the aforementioned many worthwhile film adaptations from other media, there are a ton of great films that aim for a younger demographic that are great as films, ranging from classics like The Secret of Nim and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, to recent fare like The Lego Movie, and the near entirety of Pixar and Studio Ghibli's multi-decade spanning libraries. Heck, this year has already seen a thoughtful commentary on police brutality and racial profiling aimed at children from Disney. Moreover, it says a lot about how people view children's films as disposable and unimportant, since if one turns out to be terrible, well hey, it's just a kid's film, so what if it's poorly directed, unfunny garbage with zero characters to relate to and a poor excuse for action? At least it keeps them occupied for a couple of hours, let alone how low the bar for video game movies has been set after a decade of disastrous duds that anyone would find this strike to be any bit acceptable. Being a kid's film is not an excuse for lazily making a bad movie. That's a reason to try harder. Kids deserve good movies, not only because no one should have to pay to sit through a bad movie at the theater, regardless of their age, but because they can and indeed do inform their development, be it through the lessons, stories, characters, and visuals they experience throughout their childhood, including movies. Put simply, not only can children's films be great as films, they can and should be a whole lot better than this. The only theme the Ratchet and Clank film serves is to remind adults and youth alike not to get their hopes too high for the 3 other video game movies coming out this year, let alone Sony's eventual Sly Cooper movie. That's all for now, folks. Until next time, game on, my friends.